Hi. I just wanted to ask, I guess, how did you feel in the moment when I guess he told you the real truth? And I guess my second question is, I guess, how did this whole incident really change the way you see journalism as a practice? Because I know you just talked about how you did show him the film before, like airing it to everyone else, and that's an ethical dilemma. So, like, I guess, how has it changed the way you see journalism as a practice as well?
Sure. Okay. Good question. So, first, how did I feel? I actually burst into tears, which was, and my first thought wasn't about the journalism, like, which maybe it should have been, like thinking, oh no, I wrote like the worst, thing that you can do in journalism, print something that's not correct. But I just instantly kind of grasped why he'd done that. And I thought, oh my God, he's had to hold this for 10 years. Like he is breaking down because he's had to put on this persona. And I made him, was part of the reason that he had to do this. So I felt terrible for him and for what we were doing. It just felt awful. And we needed, again, this was nice that we had NFB and TVO because they were patient. Because usually with films, you have a delivery date and you have to, it's a business. They were really good in putting things on hold till we sorted all this. In terms of, how do I feel about journalism writ large? I'm pretty happy that this coincided with me being out of daily journalism. Again, as I said earlier, I still miss it quite a bit to some degree, but it's different pressures when you have, when I'm able to do this long form type of journalism now, magazines, books, documentaries, not on the daily beat. It's just easier. I think there's still, having said that though, I think there's still wonderful journalism being done. And I think it hasn't soured me on journalism or what we do really. And even that story, I mean, it's in the grand scheme of it. I mean, we made a whole film about it, but the lie is so minor in my mind, really. I mean, the essence of the story is still there. And I'm not saying that the facts aren't all incredibly important, but it was still an important story to tell. I'm still happy for what happened with him.
Thank you.
I shouldn't tell journalism students. Yeah, no, journalism sucks. Get into accounting, guys.
Don't go to accounting. I think
time for one last question.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you so much for being here. I think a lot of us here are journalism students, and I think from whatever school you're coming from, you could probably agree that we've been told since basically day one that family and friends shouldn't be used as sources. And I'm wondering what happens when a source becomes a friend, as obviously happened with you. Did you ever feel an ethical dilemma around that? And also, did no one else flag that?
Good questions. Yeah, I mean, I haven't had a case like this, and it did absolutely proved problematic in making the film and later stories, and wanting him to be something like just protecting him basically the whole time. But it was also such a unique situation. I think usually it's more important when you try and keep that firewall. And I think in other ways we pretty much do. It's more getting too cozy with, say, like you're an Ottawa reporter or a Washington reporter, and then you often see, journalists out with politicians and the bureaucrats. Of course, there's going to be some socializing, but it's when those relationships become so strong that you're not holding people to account to power. Ismail wasn't someone with power. He was a quote unquote victim in this. So it's a little bit different in that sense. And I think, it's not like we were best of friends or anything, but I mean, it only made sense to keep in touch. And there's lots of people that I have written about over the years, mothers who have lost their kids, lots of stories that I've done on the terrorism beat where I have kept in touch with people. So it's kind of a case by case, but you can't be such a robot that you're not going to establish relationships. It's just important ethically that you're not going to be swayed in what you report.
And also important to be transparent. I think so much of the value of this, as uncomfortable as it must have been, is the transparency that you showed, where you were like, yeah, I feel like he's a younger brother. You talk about feeling like you might be a parent. Like having that transparency, I think, is really, really valuable to to audiences, but hopefully also for the people involved. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like, we're going to like sources. We're going to have relationships with sources. But if we can put on our reporter brains during an interview and when we're crafting a story, I think that source is still valuable as a source.
Yeah, and in the end, I mean, it was really hard to do, but the journalism, we did correct the record. You know, the truth did come out in the end, thanks to him, like nothing to do with my digging. I didn't uncover anything. He just decided that he wanted to tell it. And then he had the bravery to go forward and we did. So, you know, for all those sort of ethical quandaries, in the end, the story did come out.
And thank you so much for doing this. It was such a privilege for all of us to have you here to be able to watch. So thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for the questions.